Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. Bob Pompiani here with you at 412-575-2600. Call us, air your opinions. We do it 7 nights a week right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Andrew Fillipponi's up at 93.7 The Fan, where he manned the PM team today, and a lot of the topic had to be, I'm sure, maybe the Penguins getting the #1 overall pick. They did so back in 2005 when they only had a 6.25% chance. Tonight they had a 5% chance, but the ping pong balls did not roll in their direction. Instead, of all things, the New York Islanders, who finished way down there, but they only had a 3.5 chance of getting it, they ended up getting it, so they will select first. It turns out to be San Jose second, Chicago third, then Utah, Nashville, Philly, Boston, Seattle, Buffalo, Anaheim. The Penguins, which started with 9th position because they had the 9th worst record, they fall to 11th. So some of that late season winning and point total accumulation may have hurt them there, Andrew. But, you know, the bottom line is picking 11th, I'm not so sure what that means for them in terms of immediate help. Most of these guys take a couple of years. That's even if you're at the top, because it's not a generational type of draft, I don't think. So your take on what happened there tonight in this draft?
I don't get it. I don't really understand how they did the selection for the lottery. I was confused.
Totally.
I honestly, I don't know why they had to make it so complicated. It almost was like you needed a half-hour crash course in something to, go over every machination of what they were going to do. So I was completely thrown off by that. I feel like the Rangers now are going to keep their pick because I think they're going to look at their situation and believe now with Mike Sullivan as the head coach that next year will be better than this year. So they'll cash in on the 12th pick and then give the Penguins a pick when they're a playoff team in 2026. So all in all, I did not think it was a good night for the Penguins. They had, I believe, according to their odds, their third best or most likely outcome was to get the second pick. 9th was first, 10th was second, and 11th was actually down the list a little bit. So all things considered, I would say this is a minor setback as far as their rebuilding goes, Bob.
Yeah, but it couldn't be more complicated to understand. We were watching it, and with the ping pong balls coming out, and there's certain numbers you're looking for, and then it goes over to the guy who makes it official, but it's not what you think. I mean, come on now. You have an audience there that's eager to find out, and it's almost like it's a Jeopardy quiz on some math equation. It was way too much for me to understand, and I'm not good at math, so I freely admit that. But geez, you got to make it interesting. And if you remember, the PGA Tour did something like this long ago in the FedEx Cup standings where it was very difficult to try to figure out who would move up and who would not. And then they changed it to make it absolutely more easier for people to follow. And I think the NHL needs to do that. I couldn't figure out what was going on.
I don't know why they just couldn't say this is the team that's picking 15th, 14th, 13th,
right.
12th, 11th.
All the way down to
just
1.
Work your way all the way up to 1. Yeah.
They did that before. The NBA, I think, does it that way. But the bottom line is you got to make it easier for people to consume. All right, the other thing is that the Pirates lost again. They had a lead of 2-0. They had a lead of 3-2. And then Chase Sugar comes in and he gives up 4 runs in the 6th inning. Bottom line is, once again, they're now 12-24. They're going nowhere. The 3rd worst record in all of baseball, behind only the White Sox and the just absolutely terrible Colorado Rockies. And yet no word from the owner here. Do you expect anything here this week, maybe short of Bubba Chandler getting a recall? They had 3 of them tonight for the Cardinals, and they came from behind to win. So the Cardinals have won 6 of 8 now, and they moved ahead of the Pirates. The Pirates are dead last, looking for answers, and they have no offensive answers. Again, they came into this game 28th in batting average, 28th in just about every offensive category that matters. Very little power on this team, Pony. I don't know where they're going to get it because there's nobody in the minors coming up here. That's their biggest situation. They have no hitting, and how do you attract it now? You had the offseason to try to help, and they didn't do much there. They, missed opportunities, settled for guys that you would normally expect them to settle for, which are one-year guys, 37 years old or older, whatever. Now what do you do?
Well, they believe they're flush with pitching. So if you want to,
well,
you can trade
some
somebody.
of it then. Yeah, I'm talking about even trade the blue chippers in your minor league before they come up here and prove they're not blue enough. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to use those as assets to acquire what you need.
Well, there seems to be a reluctance there. I think that's more of a front office thing than an owner thing, and that's a mistake. That they're hoarding these guys or holding on to these guys thinking that they're going to have the greatest rotation of all time. Well, you got to score some runs. And I don't think Spencer Horwitz, Nick Gonzalez, and getting those guys back is going to be the absolute elixir that this organization believes it will be for them. Either way, once you do that, you're still stuck with Tommy Pham out in left field. And we're still waiting for Tommy Pham now into May to hit his first home run. It was $4 million flushed right down the toilet. Just really a waste of money all the way around. And you know how much that bothers the people that run this team, that they just basically lit $4 million on fire by bringing in Tommy Pham.
But they do this every year. It should bother them because it's the same concept. It's one-year deals for guys who are past their prime. Instead of, you could take 2 or 3 of those, roll them all up into one, and instead come up with one player at $15 to $20 million who can make a substantial difference. So which would you rather waste, the money that way or the money with one player? I'd take my shot at one player. We got to take a break here, though, Andrew. I went over, as I typically tend to do on this first segment, but we're coming back and open up the phone lines for you. It's 412-575-2600. You're watching the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call right here on KDKA+. This is our Xfinity Mobile tweet of the night. Comes from the New York Islanders. They didn't expect this to happen. They went from a 3.5% chance, and they turned it into 100% as they get the #1 overall pick in the 2025 NHL Draft. Got a tweet here from R. Lewicki, who says, sure, I'd rather watch Triolo and Valdez do nothing again and again instead of a chance to watch Piguero and Gorski. So this is, I've heard this before from a lot of people, and I've said, Piguero once was very high in their plans, and I don't know what's happened to him. They have a glut of shortstops. Nobody really stands out among them, and yet he can't get a chance to play. Gorski, I'd rather see a little bit more of him than less of him at this point. What do you do with those guys, or why have they really never given a chance or fallen out of favor?
Well, part of the issue is that, at least in Piguero's case, he doesn't really hit in the minor leagues. If he was knocking on the door with AAA production, I think they would have given him a shot. He did come over in the Starling Marte trade. Ben Cherington made that trade. So I don't think it's an example of the old regime having their guys and this regime having different guys. As far as Gorski goes, he strikes out a lot in the minor leagues, but he's productive in the minor leagues as far as the power numbers go. So maybe they're guessing or thinking that he's not going to be able to hit major league pitching. He's going to strike out a lot and put up poor numbers. Well, at this point, I'd rather see him fail than just assume that he's going to fail, especially when the alternative is Tommy Pham. Tommy Pham should be somebody's 5th outfielder and part-time player and guy that comes off the bench, not an everyday left fielder, and especially for a team that's supposed to be ready to win now with an organization that's primed or stocked with talent because of how many drafts they've had where they've picked at the top, and trades they've made where they've taken established major leaguers and traded them for prospects. So it really is an organizational failure that this late into a rebuilding process, they're still playing guys like Tommy Pham all the time.
Totally agree. Let's go to our #1 Cochrane Go One Better caller of the night. That would be Cole in Harrisburg. Joins us right now here on the Sports Call. What's up, Cole?
Hey, thanks, Bob, for having me on tonight. So, Bob, I'm 17 years old. I've been a fan of the Pirates. I've been watching them religiously for about 10 years now, and really never have I been so disgusted with how this franchise has been run. I mean, we know Shelton isn't getting the job done. We know Cherington isn't getting the job done. There are a dozen games under 500 in the first week of May. So I got 2 questions. How much worse do they need to get till we see a change? And then who do you think the first to go? Is it Shelton? Is it Cherington? Is this a mid-season thing, or you get rid of them both at the same time? But we all know something needs to happen, and this just can't continue to happen.
Cole, I feel bad. In 10 years of your life, you've waited and you've gotten nothing for it. I believe it'll be Shelton first, but it really should be a combo. But they'll probably not do that because they don't want to do it mid-season when you're. Where do you search? How do you come up with people to run your organization, although they have other people in that organization? But it's going to have to be Shelton first, even though I think both at the end of the day and by the end of the season will be gone, Andrew.
Yeah, at this point, I don't think one person's more deserving of an extended stay. They've both been at the helm for a long time, and we see the way that they play sloppy baseball. They play uninspired baseball. They play very mistake-prone baseball. And then we see the GM doesn't do the team many favors in terms of the guys he's drafted and traded for. You know, even if you leave the free agency part out of it, you know, the guys that they have more control over, and you can't just say, well, it's a spending problem, even those guys underachieve and underperform. So I think it's just a complete all the way around failure, and that's how you get a team that's on pace to lose, you know, as many games, 106 games right now, as this team. They are right now in the running to be one of the worst teams in Pirates history if this keeps up. And this is after 76 wins and Paul Skeens being ready to be a Pirate for a full season for the first time. It's just incredible how bad they are, given how long and how far removed we are from the beginning of this rebuild.
And the problem with this situation is that Ben Cherington, as the general manager, will be the guy overseeing another draft, and that'll take place later in the summer here. And the question is, do you want him to do that? But I don't know, you know, who you could bring in the interim to take that job when you'll probably have to look, you know, far and wide to find somebody, at least if they do it the right way. So do you want him to make another selection, given the way he's handled the first 6 years of this job?
Not really. I mean, he picked Paul Skeens. I give him credit for that over Dylan Cruz. But outside of that, I mean, we'll see with Bubba Chandler. That might end up being a great pick. Jared Jones looked like a really good pick, but then Jared Jones has missed all of this season and missed a lot of last year after his red-hot start. So, you know, a lot of this great rotation or rotation for the ages, rotation that would be the envy of baseball, a lot of that talk has cooled off. You know, Mitch Keller's not having a very good year. Mitch Keller gives you one good start, one bad start, and then one middle-of-the-road start. That's not an upper echelon starting pitcher. You know, they paid Mitch Keller. I don't think they're getting great return on that extension. So you add all that up, and that's how you get such a – they're not even a middling team, Bob. This is just a flat-out bad team. This team stinks. And I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel anytime soon for them either.
Bill in Greentree is our next caller. Hello, Bill. How are you?
Hey, Bob. How you doing?
Good. What's up, Bill?
Hey, the Pirates, they might as well put them in the Little League. They might do better. And the Penguins, they got to get rid of Malkin and Letang. They're too old.
Thank you, Bill. I think you've said that before. Let's go to Joe in Verona, who joins us right now on the Sports Call. Hello, Joe.
Hey, Bob. Hey, Pony. I'm watching a game tonight, and the pitcher, Malinsky, he's pitching 4 2/3. Not bad. All of a sudden, here comes Shelton. Nobody on, everything on. I mean, what's going on? All of a sudden, Newbar's up next. He's 0 for 2. So he brings the lefty in, gets the out, starts the lefty in the 6th inning, gets one out, comes out and takes him out. Here we go again. I don't know what's going on. Next thing I know, 4 hits.
Overmanaging is what's going on there. Too much bullpen play, and I've said this before, Andrew. I think sometimes you got to just let somebody go a little bit. He tends to micromanage that, and when you get to a point where this bullpen has been taxed at times this year, playing a lot of games, never a really good situation. So, you know, I know he's not getting the performance he wants out of Holderman and Bednar to some degree here recently, but man, you got to change things up in the bullpen the way he uses it, at least the way I see it.
Well, the Majinski experiment was a mistake from the very beginning. I didn't understand that. You're supposedly an organization with a lot of good young starting pitching, and you elect to make a reliever a starting pitcher, something he was pretty good at, I thought. When you've got guys, and I know Thomas Harrington's first start in pitch for the Pirates was terrible. You got Mike Burrows down there too. So even if you didn't want to go to Bubba Chandler, there were other options. And so you're faced with a dilemma tonight where all season long, Majinski's been very good the first 2 innings, and then he's been really bad after that. And that's because he's not a starting pitcher.
Right.
So that's probably why Shelton went and preemptively took him out of the game. And this is one of those situations where I don't really blame Shelton, because why is he forced to use a relief pitcher as a starter, Bob? From the very beginning of the year, I thought this organization had too many good starting pitchers.
Yeah.
And they're using a reliever in that role.
In the Horwitz deal, and now they should have other people by now in position. You're right. Instead of they've used him the entire season. I don't know, 7 starts for him now as a guy who's really a better bullpen guy. You're right. We got to take a break on that note. When we come back, we'll try to squeeze in more calls with Bob, Brad, and Don, Rick, and Chippewa. Hang on, we'll try to get to you next right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Ken Rice is in the newsroom right now, getting set for KDKA News at 11 o'clock. Ken?
Hey, Bob, tonight thousands of people around here are still without power as more storms roll through, plus gunfire at a local rec center. And time is running out to register to vote in Pennsylvania's primary. All coming up right here at 11, Bob. See you then.
All right, Ken, thanks. Real quick, let's go to Bob in North Hills. Bob, make it quick, please. How are you tonight?
Hey, guys, how you doing? I was just wondering about the hitting coaches. They got 2 new hitting coaches this year, right? They fired the ones from last year. And then, I mean, they can't even score with runners and, when they're in running position, And it's just, I just think they need to fire that whole coaching staff they have.
That may be the case at the end of this season. Before we go here, Andrew, I want to ask you about something I don't think we ever would have seen, and that is a Ravens release of the 5-time All-Pro kicker Justin Tucker. It happened today, which, I mean, the circumstances there, but still, I was surprised.
Bob, and speaking of accuracy or lack thereof, former West Virginia Mountaineer Joe Mazzulla, can you tell your Celtics to shoot 2-point shots? Horrendous coaching job tonight by the former Mountaineer. Sorry, Amanda. That was terrible.
No,
that was embarrassing, actually.
And the Knicks took advantage of that, and they win Game 1, just like the Pacers won Game 1 in Cleveland. So that's interesting. We have a good one going on right now between Denver and OKC, and we're out of time. Pony, thank you very much as always. We'll see you again
Bob.
tomorrow night. That's going to do it for us. Thank you for joining us. We'll do it again tomorrow night, 10:35. Call early, call often. We'd love to hear from you on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Good night.